This edition of the West Tigers podcast brought to you by The Ambush. Join your fellow West Tigers fans for an afternoon of fun at West Ashfield when the Tigers take on the Raiders in Canberra. Everybody's welcome, watch the game together, and it's all free of charge. And don't forget to get your tickets for our road trip to Bathurst to see the West Tigers in action. It's in April when the Tigers take on the Panthers. Bookings are available now. More details at westtigerspodcast.com.au. It's the West Tigers podcast for episode number 301, my first edition as host in the 300s, which is very exciting. Steve and Eddie, they've got other duties. I don't know what they're doing, but Gary Watson and Declan McCutcheon are here to talk about the West Tigers and hip hip hooray, the end of the off-season. I'm officially calling it, Gary, the off-season is over because we've got our first team list. It's for the trial against the Warriors. But before we dive into that team, and there's plenty to talk about, let's have one word, please, if you are ready, to describe the off-season that we've just experienced. Do you have one?
I'm going to go with revolution. The club has totally changed since the last game we played. The coach is different, the CEO's different, the chair's different, the board's different. It's almost unrecognisable as a club. And our longest-serving player left the club as well. So a little bit of a revolution occurred over this off-season, I believe.
Well, two longest-serving players are both departed, yeah. So how about for you, Declan? What's one word to describe this off-season? Which I go on, I'm a broken record. I say this was the longest off-season of all time. It seems like the off-season gets longer every time, but what's your word?
Yeah, especially for us, it just seems like there isn't really a real off-season because there's always something to talk about. But I think for me, Joel, it's just excitement. I think that there's been a lot of exciting stuff happening from the board level to Jerome Luai signing. And it's not necessarily going to take this season. I think that, this season we might be in for a little bit of transition, but I do think that, we've implemented those long-term changes that are going to wield long-term results. I'm just very excited for that going forward, and hopefully this season we have something to cheer about. But I think I'm really excited for the long-term trajectory of the club.
Revolution, excitement. My word was a word that, Gary, you used there, change. It's been an off-season of change, an enormous amount of change that none of us really saw. We all thought that change was coming, but the amount of change has been pretty dramatic, and hopefully it's all changed for the good. Let's just continue to keep our fingers crossed that, as Declan says, we are on the right track. Yes.
Has either of you guys seen this much change in any club in an off-season? It's kind of unprecedented.
Yeah, it has to be unprecedented for the upper level management to change, for the coach to change. And when you look at the amount of change that's happened in the West Tigers on top of that as well, it's not like we have had stability for 5 or 6 years. We've been in this chaotic change of roster and coaches and administrators for a few years, the rinse and repeat cycle. So it's just been a massive amount of change in an already changing dynamic. Declan, I can't remember any team or club that's had anything like this.
Yeah, I think there was an article about the Bulldogs. Apparently they've gotten rid of every player from their 2021 squad, which is, quite a lot of change. But then when you take into account the administrative change that we've had at our club, I think we probably take the cake. Yeah, I can't really think of any club in any sport really that's just went through this amount of change, especially in upper management. I suppose maybe clubs have gone out of business or into administration where they've kind of had to make those forced changes. But yeah, nothing voluntarily is coming to mind.
All right, well, let's hope they've all, been the right decisions and we are on that right track. We have named the team to take on the New Zealand Warriors over in New Zealand. And it's been a team that we've all been looking forward to seeing. Gary, a little different to what we may have experienced in recent years, in that typically we've picked a pretty reserve grade kind of team for this first trial and a more serious team for the second one. But this is there's a lot more familiar faces. There's a lot more guys here that you would presume will be playing in round 2.
Yeah, having a look through the team that's been picked for Sunday, it's almost like we've picked our best players available. That we're going with the best team that we can put on the field. And I was a little bit surprised when I saw it. when I opened up the email and saw the first name as being Doreen Buller, I was a little bit surprised at that, and then went down the list, and most of the big name players are playing. But I guess when you have a look at it, that we've got a very different sort of preseason to everyone else, whereas we have a couple of weeks of trials, and then we have a big gap between that and our first game, because we don't play when the games are on over in Las Vegas. We don't play the first round, so we have that 2-week gap in between where everyone else is playing and we're not. So I'm guessing there's an attempt by Benji Marshall to get some miles in the legs of our top players, because they're going to miss a fair bit of. There's going to be that big gap between games for them.
Declan, a few familiar faces are missing, despite the fact that there are a lot of guys that look like playing a lot of first grade this year. A couple of names that come to mind: Brent Naden, Stafford Toa, John Bateman, of course. What's your feeling in regards to naming a lot of guys that should be there or thereabouts in that round 2 game? Do you think it's to me, it seems like, yes, we don't want to overload them and put too much workload on them because it is a long season. But given the amount of change and the amount of disruption that we've had, we want to get as much game time as possible.
Yeah, I'm really happy that the club has decided to go pretty much a full strength team. I mean, the centres obviously aren't the first ones picked, but you'd assume that Olam and Toa and Naden, they're all injured and unavailable anyway. And then John Bateman is the other one that would slide into this team. So I'm really happy that they've decided to go this direction. If you look at this time last year, I think our starting cast were Tristan Riley and Brandon Wakeham for that Warriors game. So it just shows you how far we've come. But I just really like the fact that they're giving as much time as possible to this squad to gel. Because if you look back at round 1 and 2 last year, we couldn't score a try to save our lives, and it really cost us the start of the season. Who knows, if we managed to jab a close win or two there, we might not, probably wouldn't have made the 8, but it could have been a completely different season. So I'm loving that Benji's given everyone as much time as possible to gel. So hopefully we can maybe hit the ground a little bit more running when we come out in our attack. And I know that some of the criticism, I understand that, well, if they get injured in a trial, then, we're not playing for anything. So that's a fair point. But I just think that the benefits outweigh the negatives in terms of combinations for this one for me.
And especially seems that it's a total change up in the halves. Not one half who played in first grade, apart from Adam Dewey, who is unavailable for a big chunk of this year. Not one half is actually here this year who played games last year. So that bigger change up in the halves, that's going to take time. That's how you lead your team around the park. That's where all the combinations come from. So giving those guys an early start, and there's no point giving them an early start if they're just playing with reserve graders with the rest of the squad. So I can really see the reason why we've probably gone down this route. And I think it's really crucial that we get our halves starting to gel really quickly.
Latu Fainu suspended, so not in the mix there. And if you missed the team, obviously we're talking about Jaden Sullivan at 6 and Aiden Caesar at 7. You've got Lachlan Galvin at number 14, which is probably an indication that he's going to be given a real opportunity. Don't think you get named at 14 in a trial and you're not being planned to have a big part in the game. We'll steer back around to the halves in a moment. I just wanted to talk about the Buller, as we all agree, no surprise that or not an unknown quantity there, and Charlie Staines and Junior Tupu on the wings. We all know those guys quite well. Good to see Charlie Staines back on the field again. But Declan, the centres, Solomona Fatapi, who has come from the Brisbane Tigers, and Declan Casey, who has come over from the Bulldogs. 2 guys that we haven't got a lot of information about. What can you tell us about those guys?
Yeah, so Fatapi is obviously the player we signed on our 6th and last development deal, the centre from East Tigers. It's caused a little bit of a controversy at the Daily Telegraph. I think Buzz is a little bit offended by this signing for some reason. But by all accounts, he's really earned his stripes in Queensland Cup. He's apparently one of the best centres in that competition. So I think this is a really good opportunity for him to prove that he is NRL standard. I heard that he turned down a training trial, a pre-season training trial with the Broncos to sign with the Tigers. So I think he had a few options on the table, and he was also being from East Tigers in that Melbourne Storm system. So I think he's been on the radar of a few NRL teams, but I'm going to be really interested to see how he goes. And then obviously Declan Casey coming from the Bulldogs. I think everyone will remember that highlight he put on Kalen Ponga at one of the trials against Newcastle a few years ago, and also the debut where he got a HIA off trying to tackle Andrew Fafita. So, hopefully he takes this opportunity with both hands. I think he's a pretty good player. He's definitely a really good New South Wales Cup player. Like, the Bulldogs for a while have had a really strong New South Wales Cup team, and he looks like he's always been one of those consistent players. So I expect him to play a pretty significant role in New South Wales Cup, but then obviously do what he's doing now and provide that depth in the centre position that we're looking for.
Anything to read into Josh Felitti getting? You would think, given that he's been with the club for a while, he's been named at number 15, and also Alex Lobb, the winger from the Dragons, named at number 23. So they'll both get some game time, but appear to maybe not, if we can go off these selections, maybe not. Well, in terms of the centre positions, we're talking about if Olam and Naden and Toa are sort of our first choice centres, then it looks a little bit like Feliti's dropped down the pecking order a touch. And Alex Lobb maybe at this stage hasn't done enough to gain one of those wing spots.
I think.
Yeah, I've got Feliti fairly down the list. I thought I thought while showing a little bit of promise in his debut last year, he looked underdone to me, and I don't think he's quite ready to be playing first grade. And if we're naming close to our strongest team, then I don't expect him to be in that team. I think he needs the year playing New South Wales Cup. His defensive reads were quite poor in that game he played last year. He did some good work getting out off the line, getting the ball out from down our own end, but the defensive issues are well below NRL standard at this point in time. And it seems I interrupted Declan. I'll let him answer Lob.
No, that's all right, Gary. You do it all the time, so I'm used to it. But I think with Lob, obviously being a New South Wales Cup player, he was always going to have to spend a little bit of time in New South Wales Cup and probably work his way into the first grade team when you've got guys like Tupou and Charlie Staines. So, Staines has been in the grand final for Penrith, and, Tupou, he's clearly an NRL standard outside back. So, he was always going to have to play a little bit of time in New South Wales Cup to earn that first grade spot. So not really that surprising. But with Felity, I think it's kind of a little bit disappointing because he just had such high pedigree coming through the juniors that you really hope that he would be one of those guys that when he turned 19, he would be ready to kind of hit the ground running in first grade, but it just doesn't look like that's how it's happening at the moment. Not to say that, he could be a slow burn and he could be ready, just needs a little bit more time to develop, but you've just got to take this team list as you see it, and you'd have to think that those guys are probably in their spot ahead of him, based on the preseason.
Is he still only 19, Declan?
Yeah, I think he's last year was his last eligible year of flag, so I think he's 19 turning 20 this year. Let me just fact check myself real quick. But yeah, I think he would be turning 20 this year.
So I think that's quite understandable, him needing a little bit more time. 19's still very young. I've got no problem with him. I wouldn't be looking to get him out of the club or anything. I just think he needs that little bit more time. And at 19 going on 20, that's still very young. I'm happy to give him some more time.
Yeah, so he turns 20 in September. So, yeah,
and
he's 19.
We again found out that if you have some weaknesses in defence, you don't want to be playing in the centres. It's not hard to get caught out by bigger, more experienced players in the centres if you have some issues there. So that to me seems like the thing that he needed to work on. So going back to the halves, Jayden Sullivan and Aidan Caesar. And Gary, you would think given the competition, touch wood, everybody stays fit, guys like Sullivan are going to need to hit the ground running if they're going to be in this team in round 2.
Sullivan's got a huge opportunity actually getting first crack. Fainu, from everything I've heard, I think he was probably in front of him. A lot of the reports I've heard that Fainu was training with the first grade squad while Sullivan was training with the reserves, in the opposed sessions. So this is a really big opportunity. The big thing for me about Sullivan is he has shown some glimpses of being a really dangerous attacking player, a player that can open sides up with good footwork and speed, but he hasn't done that consistently. He needs to go out there. He needs to show that form he showed in that game St. George played against us last year, where he absolutely tore us apart. He needs to show that form this weekend because he has that opportunity now, and I think he's behind in the pecking order at the moment. But having that first crack, I think that gives him a really good opportunity to put some runs on the board and show Benji Marshall and the rest of the coaching staff what it is he has to offer.
I mean, and conversely, Declan, with Aidan Caesar, he's been out of the NRL for a while. He's also going to feel that pressure, and he may have a little bit more slack because I'm sure we're going to want some experience there in round 2 to start the season. But it's the same sort of situation, isn't it? He needs to prove that he's still NRL capable.
Yeah, 100%. I do think that he's the safe one. If I was to pick someone who's definitely going to start in round 2, I'd 100% say Aidan Caesar. I think that like he was the player that we eventually settled on, but that real experienced half. Obviously, we went to someone like Mitchell Moses, and then we tried Sean Johnson, tried a few guys, a lot of guys actually, and then we eventually landed on someone like Aidan Caesar, just because he's got experience playing in the NRL and in the Super League. And I've seen a few suggestions that maybe we should go something like Sullivan and Matufano and someone like Galvin and Sullivan, and I just think that just doesn't work in the NRL. I think you need to have at least one experienced half to guide the team around, to get around the park, not just in the 20, but also everywhere else on the field. And I think that that's the reason why Aidan Caesar has been bought to join the club, because he brings that experience. And then hopefully by the end of the year, someone like Latu, someone like Galvin, or even Bud Sullivan can show that they can do that as well. But I think to start the year, I think it's crucial that he's in the team.
Yeah, the only reason I see Caesar not playing in that round 2 game is if he picks up an injury at some point. I think he's a shoo-in to start. I don't want to see us go into a situation where we're playing 2 young guys, 2 guys who haven't established themselves as first graders yet in the halves. I think we did that in the past with Brooks and Moses, and I think it really hampered Luke Brooks's development as a rugby league player. So I really don't want to see us make that same mistake. I know we've got a really experienced half coming next year, but I want to see those players develop this year, and I think that's probably the best thing that Aidan Caesar can give to our club in his time here, is to develop those young guys so we have someone who can partner Luai next season in the halves. That's Aidan Caesar's role for me this year, and I think he needs to be on the field to really be doing it.
So the West Tigers podcast forum is warming up. Ironically, in the warm months it cools down a little bit, but when the cooler months come it warms up because the football's back and there's a growing number of comments and people interacting and members on the West Tigers podcast forum. So if you haven't joined up and joined us there, make sure you do it. The Last Ronin, he says, excuse my ignorance, but who is Declan Casey? Well, the other Declan McCutcheon, answered that question already. Hopefully that clears that up. Tiger Town SFS, new combos, not surprising they want to give our top team an opportunity of playing. That's very true, Tiger Town SFS. And Lorenzo says 10,000 tickets have been sold for this game, so it's going to be quite an atmosphere. He said they said it should be a solid hit out. Fingers crossed they come out unscathed. Let's turn our attention to the forwards. There's a couple of names missing. I said earlier, Naden Toa, Bateman. I missed Olam. I'm still not quite used to Justin Olam being a West Tiger yet, obviously. But Matamua not there, and Twal not there in this team. So that is interesting. Gary, Stefano, and David Clemmer up front. Papali in the second row. Kapoa got the jump on guys like Sione Fainu for that second row spot. And the one that's going to be the talking point, no doubt, is Alex Seyfarth, named at lock. You guys were talking about our lock stocks and about having Alex, with all due respect to Alex, at lock was maybe not the sign of what we wanted.
Yeah, that's a really weak back row. I'm not happy. I don't want to see us going into round 2 and having Kapoa and Seyfarth playing in that back row. I want someone, for no disrespect to Alex, I think he's a guy who works incredibly hard. I think he's getting the most out of the ability that he has. And I've got to commend that. I think that's fantastic. But he's not what we need in that lock position. You can play that lock position in 2 ways. You can play it with playing the third front rower. I don't think Alex is strong in that department. Or you can play it as a ball-playing lock, and I don't think he's strong in that department either. So it's a little bit of a nothing selection for me. And it's one that concerns me a bit. I would have liked to see someone like Kit get a run there instead, just in a trial, because I think he at least provides something in that position. Alex, to me, is really just there. He's going to get to a fair bit of defence, but I don't think he's hit up so that effective, and I don't think he really has the ball playing skills needed.
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit higher on this back row, just purely because I think if Bateman comes in and you move Kapoa to the 17th spot instead of Samuel Afanu, I don't think that's too bad. And, yes, Alex Seyfarth has his deficiencies at lock, but I tell you what, he's going to try his ass off and he's going to make a lot of tackles. And, it might not be that modern kind of style of lock that does play that, first receiver off the ruck. But, we really do need that kind of guy who's just going to be the ability to make 50 tackles again and maybe miss one or two. And yes, he's not the complete player, but I think that to start the season off especially, I think our middle defence is going to have to be really, really good. And Seyfarth, he's got experience now. No one's rated him ever since he's come into first grade, but he's just one of those guys that stayed at the club. And Andrew Webster, the Warriors coach, who I think he won Dahlia Coach of the Year this year, he actually offered Seyfarth a 3-year deal to go to the Warriors. So clearly he's seen something in him that we're not quite seeing at the moment. So yes, I wouldn't like to see Alex Seyfarth our 13 long term for the reasons that Gary's outlined, but I don't mind it to start the season. And then if someone takes the position off him, great. Someone with a little bit more attacking upside. But I just think defensively he brings a lot to the table.
Look, 100%. I think he's there for his defence. I just think the weaknesses in the other areas are too large. And he is a perfect squad player. He's a guy you want in your squad, but you want to be calling on him when you are injury smashed. He's not a guy you want playing big amount of games during your season. So that's the issue I kind of have. I would have Alex Seyfarth in my squad, but I don't want him starting. In regards to Kapoa, I'd much rather see Sam Fainu get a run in that second row. I think there's just more upside there. I think come the start of the season, you're more likely to see Kapoa on the bench than Fainu. More so because he can fill in at centre. The fact that he can play second row and centre gives him that versatility on the bench. But even then, I'd prefer to see Fainu in that role, even though you're not going to really play him out in the centres. I just think he provides more impact, and you can play him in the second row and you can play him in the middle. That's what I'd be kind of looking at. And I'd much rather see him playing this weekend than Kapoa. I know what we're going to get from Kapoa.
I just think that they're being considered for different positions because early in the preseason, Samuel Afanu did say that he was spending a lot of time in the middle as opposed to the second row. So you would probably say that Kapoa, he's in that 17, just purely because of utility value. He can cover, wing, centre, and second row. But I think that someone like Samuel Afanu, I think he'll play more in the front row than he will in the edge this season. So it's going to be interesting to see how he goes in that one. And hopefully he can kind of turn into that kind of aggressive ball runner off the bench. And I'm actually really happy that they moved Fanuapole to the bench. I think that we spoke a lot about last week about how he pretty much does play as that third prop at 13, and that wasn't really utilising his strengths. So now hopefully he can start from the bench and really bring that high energy that he did against the Raiders on a more consistent basis.
Yeah, I want Pole playing off the bench. I want him in the front row rotation. We're not strong enough in that back row. We're not strong enough at lock at this point in time for him to be doing that. I think he is our best option at lock. You do have to play him as that third prop on the field because that's the style of play he has. But we don't have the guy to play that other role. And I think he would provide a lot more go forward. Not as good defence, but a lot more go forward than Alex Seyfarth is going to provide.
The forward pack to me seems maybe a touch one-dimensional. And the reason why I say that is, I know we're comparing apples and oranges a little bit because the game has changed, but I watched on YouTube the other day a game in 2005 against Brisbane up at Suncorp Stadium. And they beat us something like 40-28. And if you go back and watch the West Tigers attack, in defence, the Broncos when the Broncos had the ball, they were too good for us. But in attack, the way that we're attacking is such a great way to watch a team that keeps the ball alive. That you had guys like Fulton and Galea and Hallertau that managed to get the ball away and create that second phase play. So I don't know if, and obviously Benji and Scott Prince really shined in that game because of all of the opportunities from broken field play and Hodgson as well. So I know it's apples and oranges, but I wonder if Benji's going to want that kind of keep the ball alive, knock it out the back, spread it wide, that kind of thing. And I don't know if those guys necessarily that we've picked are those people to provide those opportunities for a Jaden Sullivan. Declan?
Yeah, I think that surprisingly, because I remember Api Coruscant did an interview with someone and he said that Benji Marshall is actually quite a conservative coach when it comes to just like completing your sets, build pressure, kick to the corners, and then wait for the other team to make a mistake, especially early on in the season. So I don't really expect, like, for the first half of the season for us to be doing that. So maybe that's why they've kind of like picked this kind of, like work rate pack, because they are just going to, compete, kick to the corners and hope the other team makes the mistake and really focus on that defence to start the year. Because, yeah, I do get what you mean about the pack being a little bit one-dimensional. There's not really that kind of, big aggressive, like someone like Viliami Kikau or, someone who can offload, break second phase. But I think there's potential for this team to be, quite a good working rate pack.
Yeah, I think our pack has been a little bit too one-dimensional and a little bit too unbalanced for the past 3 or 4 years. It really has lacked that high-impact player, especially in middle. I still don't think we have that soul. Maybe Sam Fainu can do it. Maybe Pole can move into that role as a prop full-time and can show what he showed against Canberra. But at the moment, there's no evidence that we have that in our side. And that's the concern with the forward pack for me. I think we've got a good forward pack, but everyone kind of does the same sort of job. And that's the issue for me. We need that point of difference in that forward pack, and we still haven't found it. Hopefully we can find it with one of these young guys coming through.
Yeah, we need to find out what that Canberra player said to Pole to fire him up, because he was just... that was the best game by a long stretch, where he's very consistent in that game. He just looked like a young Taumalolo. So we need to know what was said and write it on, on his wrist or something.
It really was like a 15-minute period in that game where he just unleashed. And the fact that we're still talking about that 15 minutes, like what it must be 7, 8, 9 months later, it's really telling. That's how out of the blue it kind of was, and that's what we need from him every single week. If we get that from him every single week, he'll develop into one of the best forwards in the game. But we got it for 15 minutes.
Kind of like Eddie, like you get a really good burst for 15 minutes and then you wonder, where has this been?
Yeah, I think you get a mediocre 15 minutes from Eddie and then the rest of it's pretty dour.
Go, Declan.
Yeah, he's not really there, is he? He's there, but he's not really there. But yeah, I just think with the Pole, when he debuted in 2022, he had that really good run towards the end of the season where he was playing really good football. Like people were actually really surprised about how well he was playing, considering he was like just new on the scene. But then 2023, it was kind of the opposite, where he was playing every single game and he was starting. And I think that there's something to be said where I think we'll get more benefit out of him if we take back his minutes and aim for more of a quality over quantity kind of situation with him coming off the bench, because I think that he kind of chewed off more than he could. He kind of bit off more than he could chew last season with the minutes he was playing, because he did lose that productivity when he was on the field for long periods of time, and he couldn't really find that consistency that you need from someone in the forward pack that starts.
And I'm going to look into my crystal ball just speaking about Eddie. Good points, Declan. But speaking about Eddie, the Warriors will score a try after, 8 minutes in this trial. And Eddie will put on the group chat, I'm calling it now, season over.
Yeah, I may just mute Eddie for a couple of hours on Sunday.
Yeah, or a few emojis, some clown emojis,
exactly.
Some other unsavory emojis as well.
Correct. Okay, I'm going to throw back to you, Declan. The name Sione Fainu. He's been at the club for a little while now. He is, of course, the brother of Samuela and Latu. He is yet to make a debut. Are we going to see something from this guy this year? Is he going to make a contribution to the first grade team?
Yeah, so he came a few years ago, He's the second oldest one. He actually played junior representative footy as well. But yeah, for whatever reason, when he just got to that reserve grade level, he just kind of stalled. And to be honest, didn't really have such a great New South Wales Cup year either last year. But who knows? Maybe with his brother's coming, the fact that he is a little bit older, so it's a little bit getting to the stage of now or never with him. We could see something out of him. But for me, he's a little bit low in the pecking order at the moment. I think we'd have to have a few injuries to see him get some minutes. But you never know. If he gets his opportunity and he takes it, then credit to him. But I just can't see it at this point in time.
The hard thing for me is his younger brother's already jumped him. I think Sam's already jumped him in the pecking order. So I'd expect to see Sam before I see Sione playing first grade.
And another young guy that we haven't seen, I've seen some highlights of him. It was shared, I think, by the NBWT on Twitter of Navrin Willett in his game last week, who appears to be a fullback. I don't know if you guys saw that.
A giant.
Yes.
He looked like a man playing against under-12s. A fullback that size with the skill. I think he set up 3 or 4 try assists in the first 2 games so far. Looks very impressive. He's one of the players I'm looking forward to see come on, because I think Declan will probably know a little bit more about him than I do, but I think he's about 6'7", so a big lump of a lad playing fullback.
Yeah, and he's big as well. He's not just tall. You see a lot of guys that are really tall, but they aren't really that developed in terms of their upper body. And I went to see him play last week, and I was really impressed with him. He made a break, just off a head up that led to a try off the next play. And he's just so tall. He's very athletic. He played centre, and then there was an injury, and he moved to the wing. And I think this week in SG Ball, he played fullback, where he touched the ball a lot more. And I reckon that he could be someone who's a real smoky to debut at the end of the season, because he just looks like he's just too good for SG Ball, and he's only played 2 games. And I'm really keen to see if he gets any game time for us this weekend, because I reckon he could be a real smoky to play first grade towards the end of the year.
What's really key for him is he's bigger than most of the guys he's playing against at the moment, and quite a lot bigger. It's how he transitions as he starts playing against players closer to his size. That's really important. He looked to have a lot of skills for a really big kid, so hopefully that transition is easy for him, because that's my little bit of a concern I do have. That size difference that he does have against the opposition players he's playing against, hopefully that's, as guys get a little bit bigger that he's playing against, he can adapt.
Yeah, and I'm really hoping the reason why we let someone like Junior Tupou go is because we see someone like Willett as someone who could be better than him. Because someone like Junior Tupou, I think, Joe, you said that you think that Junior Tupou, he's a bit raw, and he doesn't really have the skill set. But someone like Willett, he just looks like he really does remind me of Stephen Crichton. I know that obviously there's an easy comparison because they're both really tall, but yeah, he just looks like he's really skillful. You could put him in any position in the back line and he'd do a good job. So I'm really excited to see him play first grade in the not too distant future.
Yeah, it would be handy to have a 6'7" winger that can diffuse short dropouts. That'd be a handy acquisition to have for sure. So we'll see. Hopefully he gets there. We haven't mentioned Lachlan Galvin. We've spoken so much about Lachlan Galvin in the last few weeks, but named at 14, mentioned a little bit earlier, of course, in the pod. We're not going to put any more pressure on him. We'll just see how he goes. I think is probably the best way to put it. I haven't actually seen him play. I think most of my fellow West Tigers fans wouldn't have seen very much of Lachlan Galvin play. So it's just another little factor in this game that looks, that makes it interesting to watch. I'm glad that there's a mix of a few unknowns and a few up-and-comers, Declan.
Yeah, I think that, as you said, Joe, I think him being in that 14 jersey, I think that's a huge indication that, he is a chance for round 2, because, you look at the other people his age and guys like Kit and Callan De Silva, that they're on the extended bench, and yes, they're going to play minutes, but I think it's a real indication that he is in the hunt for that half spot. And, I think that's exciting, but I think as we talked about, you kind of have to, there's a bit of a hype that kind of builds around these kind of players in the off-season, guys like Fanu, guys like Galvin, and you kind of just have to let them develop and not listen to the hype train, because, they are rookies and they're going to make their mistakes, but let's just hope that they, both turn into the players that we hope they're going to be, because if we are, I think we're going to have a really good Habs partner for someone like Jerome Luai when he comes in 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. that probably covers it. For the Warriors, mostly a fairly reserve grade kind of team. They've also used this match to see the return of a couple of players that were former stars for the Warriors. Chanel Harris-Tavita comes back for them at halfback, and Roger Tuivasa-Sheka's back. He's being picked in the centres after a couple of years in rugby. But hard to know exactly how seriously they're going to take the game and what that team is going to look like. So we will find out. The game is on 2 p.m. on Sunday, and I think like all the other trials being broadcast on Fox, on KO if you've got KO. So I can't believe it. All of a sudden it's back. It's really good. Go, Gary.
Been looking forward to football. I can't wait till 2 o'clock Sunday.
Yeah, you're counting down the hours. We still have some tickets available, by the way, for our coach trip to Bathurst for the game against the Panthers on the 21st of April. Tickets have been selling at a good, consistent rate, but there are some spots still available on the coach. More details are available on the West Tigers podcast website, westtigerspodcast.com.au, and get your ticket requests through for that return trip. And we're making a stop in Glenbrook, if that's a bit of a help for anyone that might be in Western Sydney or the Lower Blue Mountains. As we said last time, this is really just a trial. We just want to make sure that there's a demand for this service. And if you're planning on going, tickets are available to the match now, by the way, general admission tickets. And we'd love it if you could come along and join us. It's only $40 return for adults and $30 for children and pensioners. And thanks to everybody that has sent through their booking so far. Shall we dive into Yachty's quiz, gentlemen?
Yachty's making a return this season.
Yachty is back with a vengeance.
I hear he's doing a bit of trivia on our bus trip as well.
Yachty will be joining us, and he will be putting everybody's minds to work with some very interesting questions. I said to him, we're going to be on a coach, Yachty. Don't make all the questions about West Tigers coaches. Because I know the way his brain works.
Yes. It'll end up being West Tigers players born in Bathurst.
West Tigers players that have been on a coach. Question number 1. In 2024, so that's this year, the West Tigers will be celebrating 25 years. I don't know if celebrating is the right word, but anyway. In which anniversary season or seasons did the club finish in their highest place position? So,
Gary.
Yes, Gary.
Oh. See, because we do it weird years, like 2010 could be a celebration year because it's the 10 years since it, but I think we celebrated in 2009. I think we did 10 seasons. No, we did in 2010. So I'm going to say 2010.
2010. So that would be incorrect, according to Yachty. So he's given me A, which is 5th season, 2004. B, which is 10th season, 2009.
2009.
C, 15th season, 2014. And D, the 20th season, 2019. He says the answer is A, B, and D. Finished 9th in 2004, 2009, and 2019, and finished 13th in 2014. So
he's saying we're going to finish 9th this year.
No points for either of you.
I would take that name.
I'd taken it a second, but Steve wouldn't.
No, that would be failure. If you're not first, you're last. New West Magpies knock-on effect New South Wales Cup coach Aaron Payne played 219 NRL games for the Cowboys. Against which team did he play the most? Brisbane, Cronulla, the Warriors, or West Tigers?
Declan.
Yes, Declan.
Brisbane?
Incorrect.
West Tigers.
It is West Tigers. 18 games. Won 6, lost 12. So there you go. Only one more than Brisbane, Cronulla, and the Warriors. And welcome to the club, Aaron Payne. Question number 3 in Yachty's quiz. 2024 signings Aidan Caesar, Justin Olam, Jaden Sullivan, and Samuel Afainu have all played first grade NRL. How many matches in Australia have they all played combined? Closest to the pin.
Closest to the pin. Okay, you can go first, Declan.
Okay, I'm gonna go 203.
203.
I'm going to go 202.
You would be right, Gary, or you would be closer. 291 total. Caesar 155, Olam 104, Sullivan 27, and Fainu 5. So that's 1 point for Gary.
I reckon that's a little bit unfair because he just wasn't making a genuine attempt in the heart of the game, I reckon.
It's not in the spirit of the game.
Yeah, not in the spirit of the game.
The rule was closest to the pin, Declan.
Might as well call you the Australian cricket team because you're just not playing in the spirit.
I thought you're Scottish, not a pom, mate. Like,
Take a knee, Gary. Benji Marshall played 257 games for the West Tigers. Of course, that was over 2 stints. And is club player number 70. How many games combined did West Tigers player number 69 and 71 play in total for the joint venture? So, as it says, Benji was number 70. There was player 69 and player 71. How many games in total did those two players play?
Going to have a talk with Yachty about this one. Usually in the off-season, you start easy and you build your confidence up as the season goes on. You don't start with the grand final intensity.
He's gone whack straight from the get-go. All right, a number closest to the pin again, combined for 69 and 71.
go, Declan.
No, you go first, Gary.
Yeah, here you go, Gary.
12.
12.
11.
11, a point for Declan. Actually, a total of 2 games, so they each played 1 game.
Played one each.
Luke Milton and Clint Hill. Luke Milton played 1 game for 1 try. I think that was in that shellacking against Adelaide or someone. I don't know. It wouldn't have been Adelaide in 2004. I'm thinking about somebody else. That was a Balmain game. Anyway, last question in Yachty's quiz to get the season rolling. Name the 8 West Tigers players whose initials are J and M. So first name J, surname M. He says, there's a hint there, there are 3 currently at the club. One of these 3 is yet to make his NRL debut.
Jordan Miller.
Jordan Miller is correct.
Jeremy Marshall King.
No.
Because it's that's terrible.
That's JMK, Gary. That's JMK.
That's it.
Oh.
JM. We
Jared
mentioned
McCracken.
Jared McCracken. Yes, good one, Gary. The inaugural skipper. There's another player that's with us at the moment. We mentioned him earlier on in the podcast with the initials J and M. He's had a haircut. He had quite long, curly sort of hair last year. From what I saw.
Matamua.
Justin Matamua, yeah, that's another point for Gary. One was a halfback who played with us pretty recently, but has moved north to play for another
Jacob
club.
Miller.
Jacob Miller, yes. But that's not the player I was talking about.
Oh.
He came off the bench in the game against South Sydney at Bankwest Stadium. That I think Luke Brooks kicked the field goal to win the game 17-16. This was a player that was picked on the bench, a young halfback. He's now playing north of the border.
Oh, Jock Madden.
Jock Madden.
Gary's favourite player, Jock Madden.
I was actually trying to think of his name. Yeah, that's bad.
We've got a player who, the infamous player who was around the back of the grandstand at Leichhardt smoking at halftime.
Who's that?
You know,
Yeah, I don't remember that.
no? Jason Moody.
Was he?
He was, yes.
Didn't he become a fireman? Maybe he was just trying to...
Well, I think he
start
went to
fires
try and
or
be a firefighter and didn't get in, so he came back. He had a second stint with West Tigers back in the glory days.
It's very telling it was, doesn't it?
Another,
I once had him as a second leg of a doubles at a St. George Tigers game.
yep.
And we lost 52-0 in the rain. So I had to sit there the whole time waiting for Moody to score, and it just never happened.
He wasn't a bad player in his day. We've got 2 more to go. Okay, one of them is so blatantly obvious because he's on the coaching team at the moment.
John Morris.
John Morris. Gary leads 4-3, so Declan, if you're going to tie this up, but you won't because you won't know this guy. It predates Declan. It's PD. It's pre-Declan, this guy. And Declan's going to look at us like dinosaurs and say, who the hell is that? I don't have any recollection of this guy. But early days in the West Tigers history, second rower with the initials JM. Don't remember, Gary?
No.
Junior Moores.
Oh, yeah, Junior.
Junior Moores. Thank you, Yachty.
Should we bring back Declan's quiz? That was a great quiz when Declan did his quiz.
Declan's
Yeah.
I don't recall it.
No, must not have been that good then.
Yeah, Yachty will continue to send the quiz through, which will be your weekly torture, and I can't say that you guys don't deserve it. Gary 4 beat Declan 3. Well done to Gary, who's off on the to an early lead for supremacy in Yachty's quiz for 2024.
It's only trial.
Only trial.
Don't get carried away, Gary. It means nothing before the regular season. So
That's right. It's just a trial. That was just a trial, just a warm up. Okay. Any predictions for this game against the Warriors? How are we feeling? What do you think, Gary? Crystal ball.
I think it's a game we should win. Having a look at the Warriors' side, I think we're going in with a lot closer to our top squad than they are. So hard to say and hard to put the pressure on, but I think it's a game that we should get a win. But I'm really looking forward to seeing what we look like in the halves and how both Caesar and Sullivan look in the halves. But also, I'm really looking forward to Lachlan Galvin coming on, and I expect him to spend a fair bit of time there this weekend, so that'll be good to see as well.
Declan, the importance of hitting the ground running.
yeah, I think this game is actually, it's obviously a trial, but I think there's a little bit of pressure because we have named such a strong a team as possible. You would think, barring injuries. So I think, we do kind of need to go out and make a statement against a Warriors team. But I'm expecting us to defend really well, kick to the corners, and then just kind of try and complete our sets, not try anything too fancy. And hopefully the fact that we've got a few more first graders will show in the scoreboard for us.
And we ran our man of the match poll throughout the season last year. I'll set it up and we'll run it for the trial as well. And we can have a bit of a talk about that next week when we get back on. So jump on the forum and join in that man of the match poll, and we'll see who really performs really strongly on Sunday.
And the thread is there for the game. I've posted up the team, and that's where some of those comments came from. So join us on the West Tigers podcast forum and post your live comments in there as well. That always makes for good reading and gives us more to talk about on the podcast because we like to interact with what's going on the forum as much as possible as well. Thank you, guys. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. No injuries, most importantly.
That we win.